Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. My name is Brandon. I'm a lifetime Seminole fan.
And I am Chris, and I'm a lifetime Gator fan.
And we're putting aside our differences as rivals to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout the Sunshine State. Today we have a midsummer 2020 preview, recap, I should say, preview for the 2020 season. We're going to talk about some headlines, and we have a rare Greg Carr sighting. So, Chris, given all the topics, how are you feeling today?
Well, now that I know there's a Greg Carr sighting, I'm really excited, and I'm interested to see where this story goes.
Oh, yeah. Aren't we all? So we'll explain later why Greg Carr means so much to Chris and I's friendship, and then why he means so much to Seminole Nation. So, given all that, 2020 has been a up and down year to say the least, Chris. But why don't you and I go ahead and dive into some Gator news first, then we'll transfer to some Seminole ones, some news around the state. Dan Mullen has come out recently with a Zoom conference, so why don't you share some of the thoughts and some of the topics he covered?
Yeah, he's been hitting up a couple of interviews, ESPN and whatnot. But yesterday or the day before, he had a press conference via Zoom, and it was kind of strange because if you've seen any college football press conference, you have the coach, and then you don't see the reporters, or maybe you might see the tops of their heads, right? And when you see a press conference, it's a flip of a coin whether or not you can hear the reporters' questions. It's just a bunch of and then the coach responds. You're like, I'm just gonna guess by his answer what the question was, right? But since this was Zoom, you got to see the reporters and you get to hear their questions. So that was kind of refreshing. But it was good. It was good to just talk football, just listen to people talk football. It was nice. But majority of it was kind of the outlook for the season and how COVID has affected everything. And so good thing is that as of right now, none of the Florida players have tested positive for COVID. I know some schools have, but to this point, none of them have. And Mullen just was like, hey, we don't really know what our plans are. We're just going to wing it. Every program is kind of winging it right now.
Sure.
So I can't really tell you about practice. I can't really tell you about this player, that player, because I don't know. Because we're hoping that they have worked out and studied, but we just don't know. And we're not going to set dates as far as practices and stuff like that right now, because we're just going it week by week, really, day by day, and just trying to adjust to this kind of new norm, if you will.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of coaches would echo stuff like that. Some people would try to, push the envelope on the truth and say, like, we need to have a better pulse on where the team's going, but I don't really know how much I buy into that.
Right.
And, I heard a rumor that Alabama was keeping an extra tabs by technology. If you want to read stories about how Saban's doing that, then go right ahead. But I think the reality is, for almost every single program, exactly what Mullen says is true. You have to play it by ear. Nobody knows for certain what's going to happen in the future. You have to do your best. And yes, some guys have access to the facilities at UF because they stayed in Gainesville during quarantine periods. Some people had to go home, and maybe they didn't, and they get creative with their regimen, and let's just hope that they stayed in shape. But I would venture to say that most people just have to take the players at their word on how they've stayed in shape, read playbooks, and continue to be part of the team.
Yeah. And he said we'll find out when they get here whether they were honest or not. But one side note he did say what I thought was kind of interesting as far as their adjustments of how they're going to do practices and stuff. Recently, we've had this indoor facility built, and he said that they moved the weights, all the weights from the weight room to the indoor facility, so you can work out, and it's you can open up the doors, the garage doors to the indoor facility,
okay.
So it's still kind of open air. So I think that was kind of cool, and I would just love to see that process of everyone moving a gym across to another building. But I think that was kind of neat that now their gym is in the indoor practice facility with the open air. Yeah. Just kind of like a weird adjustment, but like all the schools, I'm sure, are having to do things like that during this time.
Absolutely. Everyone's having to be creative.
Yeah, right.
Creating 6 feet of distance is enough, and wiping on the equipment. And we already know that the sport of football, you're exchanging plenty of blows and bodily fluids. So, you know, I'm curious to see how the season plays out, just like everyone is. And Chris and I are not privy to any information. We're going to learn this just as you do.
Yep. I think this time has made us all a little bit more creative. Forced us, but especially college coaches.
Yep. So before I move on to like the other schools and their COVID results, Dan Mullen made some comments. Someone asked him how he expected his season to go. What were your thoughts on his reaction, and what was his reaction?
Yeah, he said he expected us to go undefeated, and I think that's. I mean, one, if you know Mullen, I'm not surprised at all. Like, he's a very competitive guy, and you expect. I think every team, every elite, decent to good team, and they expect to go undefeated. Now, it doesn't mean I don't think he guaranteed we will.
Right.
But he used the word expect, and I think that's totally fine, totally normal.
Yeah, that was my question. Is like, what coach doesn't expect to go undefeated?
Right.
And so, like, which is why I didn't overreact. I was like, well, Mullen's kind of said stuff like that before, but doesn't every team really want that zero in the loss column?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to coach. Well, we expect to go 7-5 and squeak out an Outback Bowl victory. Like, who's going to say that? Like, you could say, man, we would like to if you're not a good program. But, I mean, if you're a program like Florida, I would expect my coach to have that attitude. So I'm for it. I like it.
Yeah. I was not surprised, and I have no to little reaction to that.
Yeah.
Except for what I would say. But as far as the other schools, Florida State did, let me use their exact verbiage. They confirmed that at least one player tested positive for COVID. So before I move on from this, Chris, without following a ton, but some, of major outlets of news, we just have so many uncertainties with COVID-19 right now. That includes the testing we give to players. Are we testing for the antibodies, which means you had it at one point? Are we testing for positive results, which means you have it now? Are we testing for different symptoms? What exactly does the test include? And then if someone tests positive, what do you do? We saw the University of Houston had like 6 or 7 positive tests, so they shut down practice for a week. Is that honor system, or are they required to do that?
Right.
So a lot of questions there. I know that UCF had a couple here and there. The Gators were the only team, as far as I know, had no positive tests, and so good for that. But it also doesn't mean you can't test positive in the future or catch it somewhere else.
Right.
So here's fingers crossed to due diligence. And number 2, here's to schools keeping up with the budget for constant testing, because I can't imagine that's cheap.
Right.
I'll poke a little bit at you. Not that that's unheard of, but with an SEC budget, I can't imagine that's too much of a hurdle.
No, it shouldn't. Should not be.
No, not
especially a football program.
Yeah, but do you want to write a blank check for this kind of stuff? Probably not. No one wants to just give away money and expenditures. And, we still want the health and the safety of players to be the number one priority. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. So I'm curious to see, and not that we know this, how are they going to handle the results? What does that mean for the future? How does that mean the schedule's going to play out, etc., so forth.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, okay, if this continues and say into the fall where we're kind of going through the same stuff, and there's say an outbreak with a team a week before a game or 2 days before a game, what do you do? Like, do you shut down the whole team and not play that game?
Yeah.
Like, do you forfeit? Like, I just kind of...
Great question. And it's almost like an injury to a star player. Like, do I let them ride it out if they can play, or do I tell everybody he's hurt?
Right.
Kind of deal. So, same question on my end, and I don't think we have an answer to that.
Right.
So, here's the hoping the season happens. I think it's less and less likely it happens as we would imagine it. If you want to reimagine the season, you have ideas, then please send that to us. But the only thing I can think of in my mind is that the season's pushed out. That's the most likely outcome from what I've seen. I don't think you're going to shorten a season. And, there's been a lot of traction with reduced attendance, which I think won't be a terrible thing because so many more people are watching these games from streaming services and from their homes. But you just never know.
Yeah. And I think I saw somewhere where it was proposed that you just play conference games so you can shorten it a little bit and push it back. Or no, I think that's right. They were wanting to start earlier to play in the summer. But at this point, they want to do it earlier in the year, like September. So you would be playing in the summer, not the winter when the virus could come back. That's why that was like a couple months ago, so I haven't heard much about that recently.
Gotcha.
But at this point though, you kind of have to just go with it, right? We're too kind of maybe we're not that close enough.
I think that the pro sports are going to set some precedent here.
Right.
So if you look at the NBA, they've decided to quarantine themselves at Disney. Hey, there you go, for a tie-in, and they're gonna tough it out at a Disney resort. By the way, not every NBA team was on board with that. Just FYI.
Right.
And they're gonna finish out their season, that was the biggest shock to me. I thought, just like the NHL, they might just skip to the playoffs, but they didn't. And they're going to figure out how to finish off the year, do the playoffs, and have a champion. I think if college football ends up in a situation where I think it's more likely you just play a conference schedule, and that was the one that you and I have heard the most, I don't think you can really, truly declare an honest national champion and or even have a playoff. And I think that, unfortunately, may be the most likely outcome. So what I would think to be funny is 5 years from now, Chris and I are debating who was the actual 2020 national champion. And that's awesome because with the playoff, I wouldn't say it's taken away all of the controversy, but it's taken away almost all of it. Mm-hmm. There was the UCF claimed title in 2017, which neither one of us buy, but some fans do. And in 2020, you have a rehash all over again. So
yeah. Well, you even think about the claimed national championships from Alabama back in the day. So.
Okay, see that, and that's why I'm not hating on UCF for that because Bama's claimed so many.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny that it was Bama who won that year. That they were like that national championship's not real. I'm like, isn't that kind of funny that you're the team that's saying that?
Yeah, and short side tangent here, Chris. I don't think you and I even talk about this too much. You and I have already done an episode. I think it was just 2 episodes ago, maybe 81 or 80, 70, 79, 80, 81, somewhere around there. We talked about our favorite teams, not our favorite. I put UCF on my number 2 team. Here's the problem I'm having right now. Still to this day, 2020, I can't have an honest conversation about why UCF is not respected. And it's bothering me. You know what? I'm going to write a book. Chris, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to talk about why you need to just calm down if you're a Knight fan. You just relax. Just figure it out. And I'm going to list out all the reasons why you should just relax. Take a college football chill pill. Yeah. And we talked about the history of all these programs that have gone through way more than you have to get where they are. They've still accomplished more than you have, and yet still... Look at me. I'm bashing my second favorite team. Maybe it's just the fan base, all right? Not the team itself, the fans. And you and I need to come to a compromise. I need you to talk to me, and we need to figure it out.
Right. I think it's kind of like when you give an old person an iPhone, they're just like, so much going on. They don't know how to handle it. But you give it to a teen, like, listen, I grew up with an iPhone. I know how to work this. Calm down. Figure it out. We'll figure it out together. It's gonna be okay. Was it Bane in The Dark Knight Rises?
Ooh.
When he's talking about the dark, he's like, you immediately adopted the dark. I grew up in it. I was born in it.
See, this is why I love you, and this is why Batman is an integral part of this podcast.
Yes,
because he works himself in mysterious ways. No, those are both weird analogies, and yeah, you're right. There's a lot. I hope that UCF fans will hear from the conversation I will have with them. And, I'll listen. And I think there's a lot I can still glean from their experience currently. But in the end, You and I are right.
Yes, exactly. I like that. I like that. In the end, we're right.
We know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I know that you want to talk about a key transfer that was approved for UF.
Yeah, Lorenzo Lingard, running back from UM. He transferred to UF, and he had a knee injury. I think it was knee injury last year. And he was a 5-star prospect. And he got the green light to play this year. So that's a huge get for the Gators. I still think Damian Pierce is your number 1 running back right now. Because, I mean, Lingard didn't play for a while, coming off an injury. Although he is talented, I would still put him, fighting for that 2-3 spot. But it's good to have depth. It's absolutely good to have depth and talent at depth. So happy about that, but we're still waiting from Justin Shorter, the wide receiver from Penn State. There, Mullen in his press conference said no news on his waiver just yet.
Okay, awesome. And real quickly, Florida State done a really good job with the transfer portal. The biggest get, you and I were talking about this, Miko Dotson, the FAU secondary player, led the nation in interceptions last season.
Right,
that's good. You never can overlook that. Also, turnovers, there's a lot of other factors that go into that. Tavares McFadden from Florida State a few years ago led the nation in interceptions or was tied for it. And the next season just didn't repeat that success.
Right.
I'm not too worried about that. He's still a really good secondary option. Mm-hmm. And that keeps the FSU tradition going. With Odell Haggins and the rest of the talent on the secondary line plus the defense line, I should say, I think the defense will still be in decent shape. The linebackers, in my opinion, listeners prove me wrong if you want, still seems to be the weakness of the defense. So that's definitely a good piece. I think that FSU has really, at least the media and other shows I listen to, they're trying to focus on who they're getting on the offensive line, which, hey, that's the weakness of the team. You should, right?
Right.
But I also think you shouldn't go too crazy out in the transfer portal, just grab anybody. If you're grabbing the wrong kinds of guys, they're going to bring culture down. They're going to bring in talent, different procedures, different kind of skill set, and it's just not going to help the team.
Yeah.
But there have been a couple of gets. I don't know off the top of my head their names, but I'm confident that Florida State will still improve. Even if that's from like a D+ to a C- on the offensive line. The outside, which is the tackle position, will probably still be the weakest unit. But I like that they're going after it. And this was Norvell's strategy at Memphis, right? Go after transfer portals. At Memphis, you kind of had no choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've been impressed with their off-season ability to find what looks like quality talent out of the transfer portal. And it helps, especially with a new coach. It helps to have experience on your team, for sure. Even if it's a different school or maybe like a school like FAU, maybe not the caliber of FSU, but still having experienced players, it's going to help, especially that transition year.
Yeah, and I think we all agree Mike Norvell is going to get a little more leniency than most coaches do in their first off season because of everything that's happened.
Right. True.
Yep. Speaking of Norvell, there was something I want to touch on from last week. During all of the national riots we experienced, Norvell made sure he wanted to reach out to all of his players. And he sent, as we later found out, a massive text message to every single guy. Said, hey, by the way, I know what's going on, and I want to let you know that, open dialogue, we can talk about this, we can go forward with it. And when he was later interviewed by Deshaun Reed, who was an athletic reporter for Florida State last season and is still on staff, but for a different team now. He was kind of gathering information about the story. Norvell misquoted himself or got the details wrong and said that he talked to every single player individually about everything going on in the climate of our nation. And Marvin Wilson, who we now know, or if we didn't know already, is a leader of the team, corrected him very quickly and said, that's not what happened. We have an issue until this is corrected, etc. Norvell was pretty quick to respond and to apologize. And what he wanted to make clear was the fact that he's like, I'm glad Marvin Wilson used his platform to make this public because I misspoke when I said every player. He said he talked to most, but not everyone individually. They had a team meeting the next day because it was already scheduled to be part of the voluntary workouts. So they made a lot of progress. Marvin Wilson posted a reply where he talked about all the change that he hoped to be a part of in the future. And I was a big fan of that. We reposted it on our Twitter account. And it seems that everybody seems to be going forward from that. So I think that this is something we can all learn and grow from, and it's not always a positive. I don't want to spin it that way. But there were a lot of things that both sides did to make Florida State's bond grow stronger. And, they learned from it. So it was a slight error in communication, and I think they moved forward.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember when it first broke, I was like, oh, this sounds awful. This sounds real bad. Because Wilson's tweets and his players' tweets seem pretty passionate. But I think cooler heads prevailed. They did the right thing and talked. Kind of wish Wilson had talked to him first before getting on social media. But, I mean, he's a kid still. So I kind of get it. But I still would have liked him to go to the coach first. But I'm glad that they were able to do the right thing, talk it out. And because half the time, just a lot of stuff can be solved by just talking it out. And a lot of problems start with simple miscommunication. And when you talk to someone, realize, hey, that really wasn't what I meant or said or how I feel, we're kind of cool. But you see the good in social media, and you kind of see the potential bad in social media. And it was potentially could have got out of hand, but I'm glad that they were able to work it out.
Yeah, it seemed to be corrected pretty quickly.
Right.
And Norvell didn't shy away from what he said, which I think a lot of players respected, which is good. Right. And you know what? Marvin Wilson made a response. He didn't have to. He's a player. It's not his responsibility. It's the coach's responsibility to fix it, and he did. For the most part, I don't think there's 100% culpability on either side, but I think that Florida State can go on from this. And I really respect that the communication was open there. So, every full confidence that this team will work through that, and the players will continue to respect their coach, and the coach will continue to respect the players.
Yeah.
As said by the Unity Walk, I mean, they had a Unity Walk just a couple of days after that, and I don't feel like that was contrite. I feel like it was pretty heartfelt.
Yeah. I saw that online. Some of my friends actually went to that, and I felt that was a good thing, especially with everything going on, and especially that incident. That was really good timing and well executed, too.
Yep. There you go. So, moving on to other storylines, did you see that Urban Meyer thought that Tim Tebow was the best college football player
ever? Yeah, I did. I mean, I'm kind of biased. He's up there.
Really? Are you?
For sure, a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I mean, if you know Meyer, he has complete adoration for Tebow on and off the field, and him being his guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Tebow is up there. I mean, you take the orange and blue glasses off, he has to be up there in the discussion. So I'm not too surprised or shocked that he said it.
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm biased on the other end. I'm like, well, Tebow was playing Florida State and destroying them when we had some struggles at the end of Bowden, so I guess I should hate him. But no. There was the skill set there and the athleticism. You can't deny it.
And the records that he set, I mean, at the time, a lot of them's been broken, but at the time, I mean, he revolutionized the quarterback. I guess re-revolutionized because that was a normal thing, running quarterbacks, a normal thing back in the day. Then it went to passing, and now it's dual threat. But he definitely revolutionized that position, and he definitely has to go down as one of the best. The best? We might have to do a podcast on that. I got to really think because there's been a lot of college football players, a lot of good college football players. Unfortunately, we haven't seen them all. So maybe did he say it was the best that he's ever seen or the best ever? Like just period.
I'd have to go revisit it.
Okay.
I think it's the best he had ever seen.
Okay.
But speaking of that, just if you're ranking like your top 5 college players, you and I have talked about a guy named Reggie Bush
Yeah.
at USC, and I'm glad to see that he was kind of re-welcomed back to USC. I mean, we probably all know that Heisman taken away and all that other NCAA violation.
Right.
I call it garbage. But that he was kind of like Bane or not welcome back to the school. That's just kind of silly. So I'm glad to see that that's worked out and he's back in that discussion and he's back at the university, which is where he should be. That was where he made his mark. And yeah, when we do that podcast, Chris, I can guarantee you 100% he's in my top 10 of our lifetime of players.
Okay. He might. I a couple popped to mind. Yeah, he might.
He's up there.
I'm glad it worked out because when I think of Reggie Bush, I think of USC. Like, I think, and you could. That's funny. We talked about like maybe it was Bowden's wins or something were taken away, or something. Whenever you take away take away his Heisman, like no, I was there that year. He won it.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. We all know who won in the field when you saw what he did.
Right.
Are you going to delete all YouTube videos? Erase that from memory? No.
That was a thing, So.
Yep.
But glad it worked out.
Yep. All right. Another quick headline, and this is, I wouldn't say quite impactful. As I've come to look at this headline, it's not quite as much as I would have thought. Ron DeSantis, the great mayor of the state of Florida, governor, excuse me, has signed a bill that Florida college athletes can start making money off of their image and likeness starting in 2021.
Yeah, that is huge.
It is. It's not unprecedented. California was already talking about this, and I think Florida was like, hey, we're going to beat you to the punch. Now, if we're talking United States globally, college football, recruits, players, universities, it's fair to say, I don't think we're biased here. Florida's a top 4, top 5.
Oh, easily.
Players you're getting, universities, national championships, Heisman winners, talent, 4 and 5-star recruits. It's easily top 5. So this is a smart move. California is up there too. Texas, I'm sure, is not far behind. I'm curious to see how many other states go after this. The only SEC team in the state of Florida are the Gators. Mm-hmm. How long will the other SEC teams, which is the most powerful mover of politics in college football, let this stand before those states start doing the same thing?
Yeah, and they're going to do it when 5-star players go to Florida and not Alabama because they know they can make more money in Florida. Then when Alabama sees that, they're going, you know what? We might want to get on board. Then Georgia's going, you know what? We might want to get on board.
Yeah, what do you know? And then it happens. And it's a rainfall. So here's my hope out of this, Chris. Most people, when they hear this news, they're thinking, I heard someone joke on Twitter, oh, Trevor Lawrence is going to do anti-dandruff shampoo commercials now. All right. And I'm sure that'll happen. What I'm hoping is the other end of the spectrum. And I'm struggling to know the guy's name, but there was a UCF kicker who had his own YouTube channel who he started monetizing, making money off of it.
Right.
The NCAA cracked down hard on him, made it either make a choice. You either close the YouTube channel or you forfeit your scholarship and stop making player. And he chose to keep his YouTube channel. All right. And I'll post his story in the show notes once I find it. But here's my thing. I want that kind of stupid stuff to really end. Yeah. I really want some of the power shifted away from the NCAA. I know that's probably not the safest, most PC thing to say, but how much control they have over what these athletes do in 4 years is a little absurd to me.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the rules I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Some of them like that's pretty dumb. Especially when it comes to waivers, like redshirt stuff and transfers. Some of they're very inconsistent in their decision making. So, yeah, the real question is, Brandon, does this pave a way for NCAA football coming back to PlayStation?
Absolutely.
That's the real question.
And that's the headline, and the answer is yes.
It better
the players get a cut of this. And you and I have talked about this. This is the reason why you and I loved video games and stopped playing them is the very essence of NCAA college football.
Yes. So many hours years spent playing
exactly.
that game. And I just don't give me hope. Give me false hope.
Exactly.
Okay? That's all I ask. Is this real hope or like fake hope?
So I missed the game number 1. Number 2, you know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of all the people that had NCAA 2014, the last version released, simulating like 6, 7, 8 years of the future, and like I have to rely on them to be like, hey, this is what might have happened.
Right.
Because I saw like a Florida State one recently. They're like, oh, they had to play Maryland. I'm like, what? Oh yeah, we used to be in a conference with them. That was so long ago, I forgot.
Man, oh man, it just better be a thing. I don't want to get my hopes up high though.
Yeah, I agree.
Till I'm playing it, you know.
Once it happens, we're in the sticks immediately.
Right.
Yeah. So.
You know it.
All right, so excited to see where that goes. And then the last thing we have for today, just to catch you guys up on the summer, Greg Carr. We all know who this man is.
Yes.
One of the most important wide receivers in the down years of Florida State history. Very big target for Drew Weatherford. Greg Carr has accepted the Marion County High School head coach football position. So he has apparently decided to retire from all kinds of professional play, which included the Orlando Predators, along with the CFL, and he's back coaching high school football.
Which school was that? North Marion?
In Marion High School, yeah, Ocala.
Because there's several in Ocala.
Oh.
There's Ocala Vanguard, Ocala Forest, and North Marion.
Oh, okay. I forgot you're from that area. You're going to have to...
Yeah. Well, I know all about those schools.
Let's do some research here.
Yeah.
We may or may not cut this out from the final one here.
I'm assuming it's North Marion. There's other ones, too. Those are like the big 3 in Ocala.
It's funny. I would have assumed you already knew this, but...
No, I missed it.
Let's see. North Marion.
North Marion, okay.
Yeah. This was just this week.
Okay, I missed it, yeah. You want to do that again?
The whole thing?
The Greg Carr thing.
Okay, yeah, hang on. Okay, before we restart. The Colts?
Yeah, that's where Freddie Swain went to.
Oh, nice. Okay, throw that in there for sure.
Yeah.
And now also, let's see. They also have had some state championships. Okay, so yeah, they're pretty legit.
My sister's husband went to North Marion.
Jeez. Okay, I'm glad that wasn't recording. Alexa just decided to chime in.
Oh, I played at North Marion in football.
Excuse you?
I played on that field, and not at. I was for Bellevue, but.
All right, so you're throwing all of these fun facts in. I assumed you knew all this. Oh my gosh! All right.
I didn't know that he was their coach, though. I know all about North Marion, but I didn't know he was their coach.
All right, let me start over.
Yeah.
All right, Chris. So we'll figure out what happens with all of the NCAA football and college football athletes being played. Now, here's the payoff. Greg Carr, our favorite Florida State wide receiver.
Yes, one of the favorites.
Yeah, one of the favorites. We have so many stories about Greg Carr. Yeah. It has been announced this last week that Greg Carr is now the head coach of the North Marion Colts outside of Ocala, Florida. He's now the head coach of the football team. So he has decided apparently to kind of hang up the cleats, so to speak, for Canadian football in the XFL. He actually even played a little bit of time for the Orlando Predators, but yeah, he's going to go back to the high school ranks.
Yeah, interesting note. North Marion is the high school of Freddie Swain, former Gator.
How about that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know all about. That's close to my stomping grounds.
That's right. You grew up in the area,
so I know that area. So yeah, good for him. Real good for him.
So you're a Greg Carr fan, right? Is that what that means?
I am a Greg Carr, not a Florida State fan, but I'm a Greg Carr fan. Yes. I'm on the Carr train. Does that make sense?
Ooh.
Yeah.
The car is on the train. Yeah, we'll make that work somehow. Yes.
Yeah, figure it out. You guys, hey, I put it out there. You guys assemble. I'm like IKEA with jokes here, okay? Throw some jokes out. You put it together. There you go, okay?
Nice. Yep. So there's our Greg Carr corner.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Yeah, I love it.
If we could have a weekly installment of Greg Carr corner.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, that about wraps up all the headlines we want to hit from the summer of 2020. Chris, remind the fans where they can reach out to their opinions about everything that's going on with the teams, COVID-19, where they expect their teams to go, and whether or not they expect UF to go undefeated.
FloridaFocusPodcast.com. That is the central hub. You're going to find old episodes there. Hit us up, Instagram, Twitter, all those platforms. But FloridaFocusPodcast.com is the main place to go for all your Florida Focus podcast needs.
Yep, and don't forget our newest platform, TikTok.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so come visit us there.
Oh,
easy enough to find. Yeah. Beyond that, any feedback you want to give us through the website would be appreciated. Whether or not it's a 5-star review on iTunes, which we deserve, but also hey, if it's not 5-star, let us know why.
Yeah.
So, well, that's that's a fun wrap, and I've appreciated the roller coaster this summer has really presented. Sorry about the noise in the background. Was there anything else you wanted to end with, Chris, before we wrap up?
The only thing is there's a comment, is that I'm used to not watching sports through the summer just because it's baseball. I'm not a big baseball fan, and maybe you get Olympic here and there. So I'm used to a period of not watching my sports, but I'm just hitting that point where I'm like, okay, come on. I want to see some kind of sport. Just give me something.
Yeah.
And so every summer and fall, there's this huge anticipation for college football to start. It's going to be crazier than ever this year. Crazier than ever.
Well said.
So I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to go.
Yep. No further comments, Your Honor. This is Brandon saying go Noles.
This is Chris. Go Gators.